Back here on HQ Spotlight, it's officially official. The Browns have named Joe Flacco as their starting QB. We were kind of expecting Flacco to get the nod over Kenny Pickett and rookies Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders for that QB1 job in Cleveland. The 40-year-old is entering his 18th NFL season, and it's his second stint in Cleveland. Last year, he started 6 games with the Colts, throwing 12 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Flacco is going to make his 2025 Browns debut on September 7th when they host the Bengals in the Battle of Ohio. All right, let's welcome in Ryan Wilson and John Breech, because it is the NFL preseason and something we like to do, tend to do, maybe overreact on a Monday after we've seen some of those preseason games unfold. So the Browns gentlemen, of course, naming Flacco as QB1, we were kind of expecting this, but Breech, I'll come to you first. Is it maybe an overreaction if we think that the Browns quarterback room is going to stay looking exactly the same, which is very, very crowded throughout the regular season?
I think if you're Kevin Stefanski, you want as many options as possible. Now, it does seem a little bit silly to have 4 quarterbacks on a 53-man roster, and normally I would say never, ever do that, but this might be the one situation where it actually makes sense, because Joe Flacco kind of won this competition by default. Kenny Pickett dealt with that hamstring injury for most of training camp. Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel both looked decent in their preseason games, but just overall they weren't quite ready to be that week 1 starter. So I don't think it would be completely crazy for the Browns to make the decision to keep all 4 quarterbacks. I mean, the other part of this is that, like you said, Jacqueline, Joe Flacco is 40 years old. He's going to have to survive the entire season. We don't know that he's going to be able to do that. He's played well in spurts over the past few years, 4 or 5 games, and then the wheels fall off the wagon and that inevitable 4-interception game comes, Flacco gets benched, someone else plays. So I think if you're the Browns, you do want to keep as many quarterbacks on the roster, especially when you look at that early season schedule. It's not just the Bengals in week 1. You play the Ravens, Packers, Lions, Vikings, Steelers. We're looking at that schedule right now. Their first 6 games are all against teams that finished above 500 last year. That is brutal. So, yeah, I do think the Browns should keep that crowded quarterback room, not an overreaction.
So, Ryan, I want to read to you here on a separate overreaction scenario, right? We saw the schedule, the first 6 games there, like Breech mentioned, no joke. Is it an overreaction to think maybe, hey, come week 4, week 5, whatever the circumstances might be, we could see a rookie quarterback that's out there starting for the Cleveland Browns?
Also, not an overreaction, Jacqueline. Good to see you, John. Because here's the thing. Typically, when you draft a quarterback in whatever round, if he's playing well in the preseason, just 1, not 2, there's always a conversation that if your team struggles early or if your coach feels like they may be in the hot seat, you make that move to the young quarterback to try to salvage the season and perhaps give yourself a better opportunity to keep your job. But here's the thing, and Breech talked about it. Joe Flacco was 40. I think the last time he started was 2022, his first year with the Jets. I forgot he played for the Jets. Prior to that, the first time he started the regular season was 2019, back before Lamar Jackson became Lamar Jackson. So, yes, you can get Joe Flacco off the couch in late in the season to help you make a playoff push, but he's not going to play. If he plays 17 games this season, my hair will grow back. That's how certain I am that we're going to see one of these young quarterbacks, whether it's Dylan Gabriel. He played pretty well, did have the interception. Not sure it was entirely his fault last weekend. And then prior to that, obviously, Shedeur played well before the oblique injury. I think we see one of those 2 guys. And Breech's point is that maybe Kenny Pickett's on the roster as well. Maybe, but I think even if you have 3 quarterbacks, there's a chance whoever those 3 end up being are going to play at various points throughout the season.
You know, Ryan means business when he's pulling out, you know, the hair grow back analogies, right? Let's go to rookie running back Ashton Jeanty, because we certainly saw some overreactions about him after he ran for negative yards in his NFL preseason debut. But Ashton Jeanty is putting us on notice. Take a listen.
Ashton, you said a few weeks ago you were looking forward to showing the teammates when I asked you about that first I'm here moment in the NFL. Do you feel like you showed them that today? Was this that first moment?
Yeah, it was definitely today, for sure. And, you know, it takes time, you know, as a rookie, you know, to kind of, you know, gain that confidence. And, you know, I'm here, I've arrived, and, you know, it's time to keep going and make plays for this team.
He has the best smile in the NFL, right? I think so, unrelated. But Ryan, I'll come to you first here. Is it an overreaction to think that Ashton Jeanty has arrived and we're only in the preseason?
No, and you're right. He doesn't have a fantastic smile. We talked to him at the Combine, and he lit up the stage. He is so easy to pull for. Obviously played at Boise State, wasn't highly recruited coming out of college, and here he is playing as one of the best players coming out of the draft as a top 6 pick. And, yeah, week 1 of the preseason didn't go exactly how he planned. But I think, to your point, Jacqueline, that was more of an overreaction than what we saw over the weekend because he scored a touchdown. He steamrolled a defender that didn't know he was playing against Ashton Jeanty. And I think that's more of what we're going to see going forward. So this is not an overreaction at all because this run game absolutely stunk a year ago. That's why they have a new coach, a new OC in Chip Kelly, and a new running back and quarterback in Ashton and Gino. And I think this is going to be the start of something, if not truly special in year 1, definitely a lot different than what we saw last season from this Raiders offense.
Well, Brian, it's interesting you said that the rushing game stunk a year ago. It stunk last week against the Seahawks. You just got to go back 1 week when Ashton Jeanty had that negative yardage game. And so I think it was important for both him and the Raiders offense to bounce back and have a good game against the 49ers, and that's what we saw. I mean, he had a highlight reel 13-yard run where he absolutely trucked a 49ers defender. I think I've watched that 19 times since it happened. So he absolutely showed you his ability there. That's what the Raiders wanted to see, that he kind of be that bell cow running back who is getting the ball 300 times in a season. So if that is what the Raiders are looking for, that is the guy we saw. But I'm not going to sit here and say he arrived. If he is averaging 5 yards per carry and running people over in week 1 when he is facing the Patriots starters, I will be 100% on the Jeanty bandwagon. But for now, I think it's enough that Raiders fans should be enthusiastic about the future of the team.
Yeah, he's certainly a very easy guy to pull for, to your point. All right, let's go to Cincinnati because some news coming down about the Bengals saying that they're listening to trade offers for Trey Hendrickson. This is a guy who, again, led the league in sacks last year, and the Bengals certainly need all the help that they can get on defense. Ryan, is it an overreaction to feel like, this Bengals team, their defense is going to be just as bad, if not worse, than it was last year if they don't get this figured out and they are listening to trade offers for Trey Hendrickson?
I'm sorry to laugh over you, Jacqueline, but you've lived in Cincinnati. Breech is a lifelong Cincinnatian. His dad is the great Jim Breech, the kicker for those teams in the 80s and 90s. This feels like you might want to keep Trey Hendrickson based on what you just described as I'll put it more succinctly than you are, a truly terrible defense last year. They asked Joe Burrow to basically score 80 points a game, and he couldn't do it, and that's why they missed the playoffs. So, look, you have Shamar Stewart, who's flashed since he signed with the team, and he'll probably play a lot tonight in Monday Night Football, preseason week 2. But you still need the guy who led the league in sacks last year, and it just baffles my mind why you wouldn't want to bring him back. I don't care that he's just 30 years old. So is T.J. Watt, who just signed a huge deal. So it is not an overreaction to be frustrated as a Bengals fan because you're tired of seeing this defense stink it up, especially on the front four, and then your best player on defense, you're like, you know what? We'll entertain trade offers and try to get a first-round pick as compensation, and that also will not happen, by the way.
I just heard Kyle Long make a comparison about Joe Burrow to maybe Dan Marino if the Bengals do not figure out their defense, and that truly hurts my soul, Breech. Something else that's kind of hurting my soul is Travis Hunter did not play in the Jags preseason game against the Saints because of an upper body injury. So, of course, there's murmurs out there like, should we be worried about his availability because he does want to play on both sides of the ball? So, Breech, talk me off a ledge here. Like, am I overreacting because Travis Hunter didn't play?
Jacqueline, I cannot talk you off the ledge here. I'm just going to hold your hand on the ledge and hope that things get better. That's what we're going to do because you look at Travis Hunter's history. Jacksonville made the smart decision. You're not going to risk your star rookie's health in the preseason, so absolutely you sit him out of the game. So that is the good part. Now, the bad part is that Travis Hunter has a history of injuries. This was a deal in college, and now you're not even into his first season, and he's already kind of dealing with this situation again. And the problem is that this is what's going to happen when you're playing both ways, when you're trying to be on the snap, when you're trying to be on the field for every single snap. Injuries happen in football, and that's when you're playing one way. When you're on the field twice as often, you're going to have your percentages of getting injured are going to go up twice as much. This is absolutely something that Jacksonville needs to keep in mind and needs to think about. So if they see early in the season that he's maybe slightly better at receiver than he is at corner, maybe you give him a few more snaps at receiver and cut back his snaps at corner. But I do think that there is going to be a fine line that they're going to have to figure out, that Travis Hunter can't be playing 90 snaps a game. And I think Devontae Adams a couple weeks ago said, hey, look, if you're trying to play both ways, you're a cornerback, you have to try and tackle Derrick Henry. Then if your team gets the ball back, you don't get any rest, you're right back out on the field. That is tough to do in one game. Try doing it for 17 games. So it is something that Jacksonville is going to have to closely monitor, is his health. Made the right decision to keep him out of this game, but we'll see what they do during the regular season.
Yeah, I'm in a very fragile state right now, Breech. So I appreciate you being delicate there. Let's go to Malik Naber, because he's also dealing with an injury. It's being called a minor back issue, if you will. So we know the Giants, the strength of schedule is not easy, Ryan. It is the hardest in the NFL, and certainly they're feeling the pressure. They're in win-now mode despite of that. So is this a cause for concern that we're hearing this about, their star wideout and Malik Naber, who has very high expectations here?
Yes, very much so. And look, they took Abdul Carter third overall, and you have to hope that defense can do a lot of the heavy lifting early on, because offensively, you have Russ Wilson as a starter. Of course, they traded up for Jackson Dart at pick 25, and he's looked pretty good in the preseason. But I don't think we want to live in a world where Jackson Dart is facing that schedule, whether it's weeks 1 through 4 or weeks 5 through 18, because it is a gauntlet. So you need Malik Naber out there to be an absolute difference maker, because yes, you have Darius Slayton, yes, you have Wan'Dale Robinson, yes, you have Theo Johnson, and you have some running backs that can make plays out of the backfield in the pass game, but there is no clear-cut number 2 guy who can absolutely dominate. There is no T. Higgins to your Jamar Chase, to go back to the Bengals for a moment. So you need Malik Naber out there, number 1, and you need him to stay healthy, number 2, and here's the other thing, Jacqueline. I don't know if it makes you feel better or worse. Malik Naber is built thickly, and I say that because he gets injured too. So it's not just a Travis Hunter situation, because Travis looks like he weighs 145 pounds. They need Malik Naber healthy to get that offense going and take some of the pressure off that defense.
You know what? I have faith in the unicorn. I have faith in BTJ, and I have faith in Liam Cohen. I'm trying to convince myself here. Breech, Ryan, always great to see you guys as we talk about some of the biggest headlines here as the NFL preseason is underway, and getting a look at some notable games for Week 3. We were just talking about the Giants. They're welcoming the Patriots to town on Thursday. And then, hey, on CBS, you can catch the Titans and the Vikings, Rams and the Browns, the Seahawks and the Packers, and the Niners and the Chargers. That is Saturday at 8:30 Eastern. All right, time to get locked in for fantasy football. Coming up, Jamie Eisenberg joins our show telling us his favorite players to break out as league winners in 2025.